now. Nice little warning there for everyone. Now we are recording this call. Ah, welcome, Flavia. Good to have you here. Okay. Welcome to this place. Welcome to this place here with us. This is a Bloom Network community call, which is a quarterly call, which we have a specific topic that we focus on. My name is Hannah Mitchell, and I'm calling in from New Zealand. And I will be one of your hosts today, along with Meg, who will be translating in Spanish. Today, we are here to honor art and hear from two fantastic artists, Tamani and Ching. And we're going to be talking about nature's spirit speaking through art. One of our artists speaks Spanish, so we'll be translating the beginning and the end of this call and during his session.
Okay. Bienvenido a este lugar aquí con nosotros. Esta es una llamada comunitaria de Bloom Network. Esta es una convocatoria trimestral que tiene un tema específico en el que nos enfocamos. Hoy estamos aquí para honrar el arte y escuchar a dos artistas fantásticos, Tamani y Ching, y hablar sobre el espíritu de la naturaleza, hablando a través del arte. Antes de sumergirnos en este delicioso tema, aprovecharé este momento para contarles sobre el trabajo de Bloom Network. La misión de Bloom Network es conectar y apoyar a los creadores de cultivos regenerativos. Nuestra visión es un futuro en el que los recursos se distribuyen nunca he dicho esta palabra, equitativamente, equally, y sean accesibles en armonía creativa con la naturaleza. Nos consideramos un nuevo tipo de empresa de medios que tiene sus raíces y está liderada por capítulos locales que realizan acciones en el mundo real para marcar la diferencia en el cambio climático y la igualdad social. Bloom es un verbo. Tenemos 16 capítulos locales haciendo trabajo regenerativo en todo el mundo. Para obtener más información, puede suscribirse a nuestro boletín informativo. Obtenga el enlace aquí en el chat. So there's our link if you want to sign up for our newsletter for more calls with fabulous people like this. Entonces, realizamos estas llamadas trimestrales rotando alrededor de 4 temas en un año para ayudar a conectar a los líderes del movimiento que trabajan en diferentes áreas con objetivos similares. Los temas son de economía, tecnología, naturaleza y hoy arte.
So before we dive into the delicious topic of art, we'll just take a moment to tell you about Bloom Network. Bloom Network's mission is to connect and support regenerative culture makers. Our vision is a future where resources are equitably distributed and accessible in creative harmony with nature. We think of ourselves as a new type of media company, which is rooted in and led by local chapters who do real world actions to make a difference in climate change and social equality. We know that there are many regenerative ideas and models already existing in the world, and Bloom Network is amplifying this knowledge so that the concepts and new ways of being get adopted faster. In short, Bloom is a verb, helping people shift from an extractive mindset to a regenerative one. So we're helping educate about regenerative systems which allow all life to flourish in harmony with the Earth's cycles. We currently have 16 local chapters doing regenerative work around the world. To find out more, you can sign up for our newsletter, and Meg has already put that in the chat for you. We run these quarterly community calls, rotating through about 4 topics a year to help us connect leaders and other people who want to learn about regenerative culture. Our other topics for the quarters are economy, technology, nature, and this quarter is art. So at the beginning of each community call, we take a time to ground and center ourselves with a short meditation so that we can be fully present for this call and the wisdom that will be shared. So take your hands away from your keyboards, take this opportunity to close your eyes and become conscious of your breathing. Take some deep breaths. Feel your breath flow down your throat. Feel your breath move into your heart and lung area. Feel your breath fill your body and solar plexus region. Breathe in deeply and take it all the way down to your toes. Welcome, welcome to this place. Welcome to this place here with us. We acknowledge the land from which we are calling in from. So for a moment, hold that land in your mind and picture the beautiful spots that you know and love. If you are able, recall the names of the land and the people who have walked upon them. Speak them out loud to yourself. We take this moment to acknowledge all life, peoples and stories that have been on this earth before us. We acknowledge the life, people and stories that are unfolding right now. And we acknowledge those of the future. We give and share our love with all that is unfolding, past, present, and future. Take 3 more deep breaths and fill your whole body. Meg, do you want to do the translation?
Al comienzo de cada llamada de la comunidad, nos tomamos el tiempo para aterrizar y centrarnos con una breve meditación, para que podamos estar completamente presentes para esta llamada y la sabiduría que compartiría. Por lo tanto, retire las manos de los teclados, cierra los ojos, tome conciencia de su respiración. Toma algunas respiraciones profundas. Siente tu respiración fluir por tu garganta. Sienta cómo su respiración penetra profundamente en el corazón y el área de los pulmones. Sienta cómo su aliento llena su vientre y la región del plexo solar. Respire profundamente y hágalo llegar hasta los dedos de los pies. Bienvenido, bienvenido a este lugar. Bienvenido a este lugar aquí con nosotros. Reconocemos la tierra desde la que estamos llamando. Aprovechemos este momento para reconocer toda la vida, los pueblos y las historias que han existido en esta tierra antes que nosotros. Reconocemos la vida de las personas y las historias que se están desarrollando en este momento y reconocemos las del futuro. Damos y compartimos nuestro amor con todo lo que se desarrolla en el pasado, presente y futuro. Con gratitud, abrimos los ojos y nos acomodamos anclados ahora en este momento juntos. So, open your eyes. Thank you for being fixed here this moment with us. And we will ask that if you are not speaking or asking a question, that you please mute your microphone now.
So welcome once more to this Bloom Community Quarterly Call for June Solstice 2021. I'm very excited to tell you about our first artist. So I'm going to read our artist notes and then Meg will introduce him formally. Who's rustling there?
Yeah, could we have a host that can mute them, please? I don't have the capacity. Thank you.
Oh, it might have been Jared.
I think we got it.
Oh, I think we're good. Yeah. Okay. So Luis Tamani is a globally recognized visionary artist from the Amazon rainforest of Peru. Luis spent his childhood rising at dawn and going with his father to help him build and carve dugout canoes by the riverside. The seasons by the riverside were spent being amazed by nature, the beauty and her cycles. Luis received formal art and academic training at a school in his hometown, and pre-COVID, Luis traveled internationally, taking his visions to many parts of the world with the intention to spread his love and gratitude for life, for Earth, that makes all of this experience possible. He is the transmitter of visions, sharing messages of communion with the Earth and the human being, drawing on his own deep relationship with elements, plants, animals, trees, and stones. He believes there is unlimited teaching that nature can offer us, and that every human has the potential to develop a deep relationship with these worlds.
Luis Tamani es un artista visionario reconocido mundialmente de la selva amazónica de Perú. Pasó la infancia de Luis Perú levantándose al amanecer con su padre para ayudarlo a construir, tallar canoas. Las estaciones a orillas del río la pasaba asombrado por la naturaleza, la belleza y sus ciclos. Luis recibió formación artística y académica formal en la Escuela de Arte Eduardo Mesa Saravia en su ciudad natal. Pre-COVID, Luis viajó internacionalmente, llevando sus visiones a muchas partes del mundo, con la intención de difundir su amor y gratitud por la vida y por la tierra que hace posible esta experiencia. Luis es un transmisor de visiones, compartiendo mensajes de comunión entre la tierra y el ser humano, basándose en su propia relación profunda con elementos, animales, plantas, árboles y piedras. Cree que existe una enseñanza ilimitada que la naturaleza puede ofrecernos y que cada ser humano tiene el potencial de desarrollar una relación profunda con estos mundos. Entonces, estoy muy emocionada de presentarles a Luis Tamani. Luis, es tuyo.
Hola, hola, hola a todos. Muchas gracias por la invitación. Estoy feliz de poder compartir este breve momento con todos ustedes.
He says thanks for the invitation. He's very happy to be here with us today.
Sí, es bueno este momento porque podemos transmitir un poco de lo que estamos aprendiendo con el arte y con las vivencias que tenemos y esta relación que estamos desarrollando con la naturaleza y el arte.
So he's excited to be here to transmit what he's learning and for us to learn from art and connect with nature through that medium.
Sí, aunque creo que también que la vida del ser humano es tan corta como para poder tener la capacidad suficiente de poder captar todo lo que la naturaleza nos quiere enseñar, ¿no?
Delphi, can you help me with that sentence? Did you catch that? Luis, ¿puedes repetirlo?
Sí, que aunque para el poco tiempo que el hombre tiene en la tierra, para poder captar todo lo que la naturaleza tiene para enseñar.
He says that life is short, but we still have the capacity to learn from nature in our lifetimes.
Entonces, muchas gracias por este tiempo y que podamos hablarnos sobre arte un poco.
Sí, entonces, ¿quieres compartir tu pantalla para mostrarnos algo o quieres que yo pregunto las preguntas a ti?
Sí, sí, me puedes hacer las preguntas que tenían para que sea más, más en los parámetros y más fácil también.
Sí, y para compartir tu pantalla es al
Ujú.
centro de la pantalla en la parte superior.
Ok.
Puedes tomar tiempo para reconocerte con la tecnología. Es
Sí, sí, sí.
algo verde. En
Sí,
magenta,
sí, sí.
are they able to share? Okay,
Should be able to. Yep.
Sí, lo he encontrado.
perfecto.
Eh, ok.
Okay, lo vemos y toma el tiempo, está bien. I just said, take your time. It's fine to find what you want to show to us. And our first question that we're going to ask Luis, and we'll ask John too. We'll introduce John after we go through with Luis, but it's going to be, tell us about the first painting you made that was really important to you. And I asked this question because I feel like there's a moment as an artist that you become something deeper. Instead of just having aesthetics, you connect through your emotion and who you are. So the question for Luis, when he's ready. Luis, cuando estás listo, cuéntanos sobre la primera pintura que hiciste que fue realmente importante para ti. Porque como artistas tenemos a veces un momento en que conectamos con la naturaleza y la mente y el arte
Sí.
físico.
Sí, justo estaba buscando la imagen
Está bien,
que...
no problema.
Entonces, sí, ya encontré la imagen.
¿Sí? ¿La vemos?
Sí,
Ujú.
sí se llama Guardianes la pintura.
Pero hay que abrirlo con
Ok.
clic doble.
Ah,
Porque
ok.
vemos el disco duro de la computadora
Ok, ok,
con
ok,
tu
ok.
carpeta, pero la pintura no.
Ah, no, ok. Hice un error acá.
Tal vez sea o esté en otra ventana. Está escapada.
¿Es
I said his
esa?
painting has escaped to another window. Aquí está. Gracias.
Ok. Am, em, ok, entonces se puede apreciar. No sé cómo hacerle pequeño. Ah,
Pues con el botón control y
ok,
el dash. Ajá, así.
ok.
Tenemos preguntas de la audiencia, pero vamos a esperar hasta el fin para
Sí,
contestarlas. Okay, we
sí,
have
sí, sí,
audience
sí.
questions, but we'll answer them at the end. Okay, entonces
Eh,
cuéntanos sobre la
sí,
pintura que hiciste que fue realmente importante
ujú.
para ti.
Sí, esta es la pintura que fue realmente importante para mí. Eh, la realicé en el año 2014.
He says this is the first one or the one that was very meaningful to him from 2014.
Entonces es importante porque, por una parte, abrió mis ojos a la, a la, a la, a la capacidad de entender que no soy yo solo como artista y mi talento pintando, sino que puedo recibir información de parte de la naturaleza, de parte de Dios, de parte de una energía que es superior al ser humano.
Okay, he says that this painting opened his eyes to an ability to understand not just art as an artist, but that we're able to receive information from nature that is divine, from God. And we can all receive that information and understand it.
Entonces, ¿cómo he descubierto esto? Cuando terminé la pintura, simplemente en el primer momento la pintura no me hizo sentir mucha emoción. Entonces la tapé con una tela y regresé después de una semana a observar la pintura.
He said that he didn't immediately feel something like that special about the painting, but about a week later, he went back to it and there was something different there.
Y al momento de volver a mirar la pintura, entonces me hizo una sensación súper extraña, ¿no? Entonces la sensación era como ver pintura como si no la hubiera realizado yo mismo, ¿no? Entonces me ha permitido volver a apreciar la pintura como desde otro punto de vista, ¿no?
He said he had this super strange feeling like he wasn't really the one who painted it, like there was some other artist.
Entonces, en ese momento yo he podido sentir que hay algo más en mis pinturas, ¿no? Que hay una vibración que puede tocar de una manera distinta.
There was a vibration, a very distinct vibration that he felt about this painting.
Entonces, ese es en un aspecto personal como me hizo descubrir otras cosas. Y en el aspecto profesional, con esta pintura es que fui a mi primer festival también, que es el Boom Festival, que está en Portugal.
He said, in a personal aspect, he discovered new things from this painting. And then professionally, it was his first painting that he went to a festival, which was Boom in Portugal. And I think a lot of our Bloom members also go to Boom. Mucha gente de Bloom también van a Boom.
Entonces, creé una relación muy buena con el galerista de ese tiempo, que su nombre es Jesse. Y da la casualidad.
Someone named Jesse.
Y da la casualidad que Jesse también era galerista del Burning Man, del Symbiosis Festival. Entonces me abrió muchas puertas. Por eso es importante esta pintura, ¿no? Me abrió muchas puertas. Para
I see. He says that this painting opened a lot of doors or portals to other things because it opened up to Symbiosis and Burning Man. So this was sort of a professional gateway, I guess, of sorts for him. Perfecto.
Entonces, sí.
¿Y qué más? ¿Tienes otras palabras en esta pintura específica?
Después, tiene un valor bonito la pintura en especial, porque el nombre es Guardianes. Entonces, es más una invitación a que todos nosotros podemos ser guardianes de las plantas, guardianes de la naturaleza, guardianes de nuestro entorno. Eso es es una invitación es un llamado a sacar nuestro espíritu guerrero, como son los jaguares. Entonces, de tener ese coraje de proteger la naturaleza como un tigre, ¿no?
He says that this one is called Guardians. It's an invitation to everyone that we can all be guardians of our natural world. And it's a sacred call to protect nature, like a tiger might be there for protection. Ok, gracias. Entonces tenemos otra pregunta. ¿Cómo suelen empezar tus cuadros? How do your paintings usually begin?
Ok, entonces generalmente cuando estoy sin pintar, vienen muchas ideas a mi cabeza, pasan muchas ideas, ¿no? Entonces estas ideas las voy seleccionando y de pronto las puedo juntar en una composición con aspectos que he tenido en otros momentos, vamos a decir, sueños, ceremonias con plantas. Entonces, es un ensamblaje de muchos aspectos que yo he podido pasar.
Okay. He says that usually when he begins a painting, he has a lot of ideas about it, and he has to filter them down. His ideas come sometimes from dreams, from plant ceremonies, and I think I missed the last part of it, but I think that's good. Ok, entonces, ¿cuáles son las formas en que siente que la naturaleza habla a través de usted y habla a través de su arte? So what are the ways that you feel nature speaking through you and speaking through your art?
Ok, una de las formas, creo yo, que puede hablar la naturaleza a través de mi trabajo es justamente con los aspectos orgánicos que tiene, que solo la naturaleza tiene, ¿no? Como por ejemplo las texturas, los verdes, los colores, los tonos verdes de las hojas, algunos animales, ¿no? Propios de la naturaleza. Entonces, creo que ese es uno de las características que tiene mi trabajo, es de transmitir la naturaleza a través de elementos muy reconocibles, ¿no? Como en este caso son los jaguares o el rostro de un maestro curandero o de un poblador de la Amazonía.
He says that nature has a lot of organic aspects that he feels speaking through him, texture, colors like eye colors, certain animals. And he feels like one of the characteristics of his art, that his art has, is to translate what nature is saying. And I think that we all can kind of see that come out in his work. And I think a lot of people have really, this is just me adding it, but I think a lot of people have really been brought together by what they hear speaking through Luis's art. Y Luis, yo dije al fin que pienso que mucha gente han reconocidos juntos con la visión de que pueden ver en tu arte, que está conectando personas de todo el mundo, que nos sentimos juntos con la naturaleza y sabemos que tú te puedes sentir también. Okay, one more question, and then we'll just have Luis show us some of his favorite art. Una más pregunta y después tú vas a mostrarnos lo que sea, okay?
Okay.
The question is, what does art know that science can't? ¿Qué sabe el arte que la ciencia no puede?
Okay. Yo quisiera hacer como primero empezar por una parte que la ciencia y el arte tienen algo en común, que los dos son de práctica, de ensayos, pero pienso que el arte tiene un aspecto más espiritual, ¿no? Es más conectado, mientras que la ciencia busca, por medio de pruebas, llegar a algo concreto, ¿no? Pero el arte no, el arte, cuando puedes tú apreciar una pintura, la pintura te puede tocar de una manera, te toca de una manera directa, pero tú no encuentras una explicación lógica a eso. Entonces el arte es más espiritual, más espontáneo en ese sentido.
Que la pintura te puede tocar directamente sin explanación. Okay. He said that science and art have commonalities because both are practice that you undertake in your life. But art has a more spiritual aspect, right? More ethereal, where science is searching for something concrete. But a painting can touch you directly without an explanation, where science seeks to really help you understand with logic. With art, you don't need that explanation. Sometimes the message gets to you and it's immediate and ephemeral. So, ok, perfecto. Entonces, gracias, Luis. ¿En qué pinturas quieres hablar un poquito?
Voy a observar un poco.
All right, Luis is going to show us a few paintings that he'd like to talk about for a moment. And Magenta, how are we doing on our time? How long have we been talking about? 10 minutes, maybe?
Oh, I'm not sure, but I think we're good.
Okay, good.
It's 22 the hour.
Okay.
Perdón, ¿se puede ver esta otra pintura?
Otra vez el disco duro solamente, pero la pintura no.
Ok.
Está escondida en otra ventana.
Ok.
Yo soy
Ahora
instructor de computadora, entonces te puedo ayudar. Ok, perfecto.
Ahora,
Gracias.
ok.
Ajá, sí,
Ok.
te veo.
Ya. Esta pintura también es otra que me encanta mucho.
This is a painting that he loves also.
Siempre que realizo una pintura, no trato de hacer el personaje para un motivo de ponerlo como al nivel de un dios, sino más bien de que cada individuo se pueda reflejar en este ser.
He said that when he makes a painting, he doesn't try to make the character like at the level of a god, but rather a reflection of the divine.
Entonces, esta pintura se llama Flor de Tabaco.
This painting is called Tobacco Flower.
Y y habla sobre el tiempo que una persona cuando quiere tener un contacto más directo con la naturaleza, en este caso es un aprendiz de plantas medicinales.
So this painting is speaking to that through smoking that plant, you can make a more direct contact with nature. And I'm also going to tell Louise that I love that there's like this big bird there because, you know, tobacco sort of makes you sore inside, right? That's such a beautiful analogy. Y Luis, estoy diciendo que me encanta el pájaro porque el tabaco te hace sentir volando, ¿no? Como el espíritu es más alto o algo así.
Y entonces este personaje es alguien que está conectado con la medicina del tabaco, con esta planta, ¿no? Entonces, en la escena se ve que un águila está entregando la flor del tabaco al personaje. Y esta es la representación, esta flor radiante es la representación del poder que tiene esta planta, ¿no? De su poder curativo.
So he says that this character is connecting with the tobacco medicine and let's see, I missed that last bit. Sobre el flor radiante, otra vez, Luis, lo siento,
Sí,
por favor.
que esta flor radiante es la representación del poder de la medicina, ¿no? Del tabaco.
Right. So the radiant flower is representative of the powerful medicine, the power of the medicine of tobacco, which I guess we all know if you have ever smoked any tobacco, that it is a very powerful medicine indeed.
Entonces yo puse del tabaco que sale como series de geometrías en dirección de la cabeza del personaje. Entonces estoy dando a entender todo el conocimiento que está transmitiendo a este individuo, ¿no? Que todos sus cantos, toda su medicina, ¿no? Claro, dentro de un plano espiritual, ¿no?
Yeah, he says that you can see in the flower that it's transmitting that sacred geometry and all the things that it knows, and that you can kind of feel that knowledge when you smoke it. There are songs and histories and stories that you feel, and that is representing that. Oh, maravilloso, Luis.
Sí. Y entonces, para mí es una... veo al arte también como una especie de poesía, ¿no? Por eso mis composiciones son un poco así, siento que trato de transmitir, que sea una pintura algo poética también a la vez, ¿no?
Yeah, he said he felt like this painting was very poetic. He was trying to transmit something of the poetry of the experience. Y sí, lo haces aquí. He said, you've done it. It's so good. Okay. Entonces, vamos a tener las preguntas al fin. ¿Tienes una cosa más o una pintura más que quieres mostrar? O I asked if there's one more painting to show or one more thing to say.
Sí, ok, ok.
No la vemos.
Sí, ahora viene. ¿Ahora sí?
Oh, sí, oh, nunca he visto esto.
Ok. Voy a moverlo un poco así.
Mm-hmm. This one's called Ayahuasca Heaven, right?
Ok. Entonces, su nombre se llama Cielo Ayahuasca, le puse el nombre a la pintura, ¿no? Entonces, dicen que este tipo de medicina te conecta mucho al cielo, ¿no? A este espacio del cielo.
So this one is called Ayahuasca Heaven, or probably Heavenly Ayahuasca is a better translation. That this particular medicine, which is from a vine, if you're not familiar, it has a connection with heaven.
Ujú. Entonces, esta es una obra muy, muy personal, ¿no? Incluso el personaje que está acá ese soy yo. Esta pintura habla de un día que tuvimos una ceremonia con un grupo de amigos con ayahuasca. Y se me presentó un pájaro, y es el pájaro azul que mostré en la otra pintura también. Ese pájaro nosotros, los amazónicos, le decimos sui sui.
He said that this painting is very personal, that it's actually him in the painting. So I guess we could call this a self-portrait of sorts about a day of ceremony with friends when a blue bird from the rainforest called Sui Sui came to him.
Ujú. Y no sé, acá por la derecha, en la parte derecha superior derecha, perdón, se puede apreciar mejor el pájaro.
On the
Y,
right there, you can see the bird.
y entonces, lo que pasó es que mientras yo tenía la planta en mi cuerpo, me quedé observando la luna y de la luna sentí el canto de este pájaro que vino a mí, y el pájaro se puso en mi hombro y se puso a cantar. De pronto era una anciana, después era como algo un poco más joven, después era una niña, y así estuvo el pájaro como toda la noche a mi lado, ¿no? Entonces, de esta experiencia saqué esta composición. Y desde ese momento es que en algunos de mis pinturas pongo este pájaro como representación de la medicina en sí también, ¿no?
Wow. Okay. So this bird came, you can see the bird at the top right there. And he had the plant inside his body when he saw this bird, and he was observing the moon, and the experience and the plant brought the song of the bird inside him, this ancient song. And it made something inside him more young, brought him back to his youth, and changed something inside him. And he puts this bird in a lot of his paintings. It's an important element of other work that you might see. Qué belleza, Luis.
Sí, sí, sí.
Lo queremos.
Sí, sí, y eso es lo que me llevó a hacer esta pintura, ¿no? Un poco conectado con parte del cielo. Y los caballos que estoy representando también como fragmentos, las cabezas de caballos que están en la pintura, ¿no? Son animales que tienen una fuerza, entonces les puse como que son los transportadores, ¿no? Los que me llevaron a este plano también, ¿no? Del cielo. a poder experimentar esta bonita vibración de la naturaleza, ¿no?
He says that the horses are very forceful animals, and in this painting you're connecting with heaven, and the horses are sort of carriers. They're helping this beautiful vibration from heaven arrive, I suppose. I guess messengers, perhaps. Wow. Gracias, Luis. Entonces, ¿hay otras palabras finales o algo que quieres decir sobre esta pintura o en general para nuestra comunidad?
Sí. En general, mi voz como artista no estoy yo divulgando la planta de la ayahuasca como un algo que hay que ir a tomar a la selva o tomarlo, sino más bien que invito a la reflexión que cada planta, cada insecto, cada ser vivo que está en la naturaleza tiene algo que aportar en el sistema que juega la naturaleza misma. Entonces, simplemente mis pinturas son una invitación a cuidar, a proteger la naturaleza.
He said in general, his message or his voice as an artist is not necessarily promoting to take ayahuasca or to take the sacred plant out of the jungle where it belongs or lives, but rather that every plant, every bug or animal where everyone lives also has a song or something really special or an intelligence to share, and that his message overall is one of cherishing and protecting nature. So, okay. Whew. Me voy a llorar. Okay, Luis, gracias por tanta belleza que pones en el mundo. Te queremos tanto en nuestro corazón de Bloom como individuales que has inspirado tanto en la comunidad y en el mundo, y queremos que tu vida sea una exploración maravillosa de la vida en el futuro.
Muchas gracias a ustedes.
Thank you. I said that we're all so inspired by him, me in my life and us as a community of Bloom and as individuals who are here. We're so inspired and thankful about his work. And I hope that his life in the future I hope that his path in the future is a beautiful exploration of life. So. Gracias. Entonces, vamos a mover al otro artista, John Ching. Luis, ¿entiendes inglés o quieres que yo traduzco o tienes que ir?
Normalmente tendría que irme porque ahorita, mira, estoy en plena mudanza, entonces estoy cambiando de casa justo ahora.
Okay.
Y también tengo 4 niñas, entonces ahorita es de noche y tengo que estar con ellos un poco también.
Ok, entonces, una pregunta de Laurencia, un momentita. Luis has to go. He has 4 children and they're moving. So he is in a bit of a crunch, I'm sure. Let's see. Rachel says, how do religious practices influence your art? And I think I'll hold off on that one simply because I think we heard that. Pienso que ya contestamos la pregunta que tuvo la mujer en las preguntas.
Ujú.
Personas dicen que han hecho su primer arte muy importante en el año 2014 también. Y o pues Magenta dice que su pintura, una pintura te curó algo en sus ojos un día, ayudó con sus ojos. Y amo tus obras, Tamani, mística, la mística que emana de ellas. Muchas gracias, Luis. Soy artista y tu arte es un mejor inspiración en mi vida. Gracias, Somer.
Gracias, gracias.
Ok, pues entonces
Gracias.
te puedes
Sí,
quedar, te puedes ir como quieras, ok. Muchas gracias por
sí,
venir.
no,
Te
sí.
invitamos a todo que pasa en Bloom y
Ujú,
queremos conocerte en la vida real un día, ok.
ujú. Sí, no, gracias a ustedes. Sí, ahora es mucho movimiento en mi casa. Estamos, como digo, haciendo muchas cajas y las niñas tienen que ir a dormir. Ah, pero sí, yo estoy muy feliz de compartir este momento, ¿no? Aunque sea breve, pero estoy feliz de estar con ustedes.
Todo bien. He says he's so happy to
Sí,
be here with us today, but he just has a lot going on in his house. The kids need to get to bed and whatnot. So, okay, está bien. Entonces, adiós, Luis, cuando quieres, okay?
cuídense.
Entonces, puedes parar
Ujú.
compartiendo la pantalla.
Compartiendo, ok.
O tal vez dice, déjalo. Sí. Okay, perfecto. Entonces, gracias, Luis. So I'm going to transfer over to Hannah, and Hannah's going to be talking to John. So thank you so much, Luis.
Gracias.
Kia ora. Thank you, Luis. That was amazing. And now we have another amazing artist to share with you. Aren't we so lucky? Amazing. John Ching. And I will give you a little overview of his work now. So John Ching brings to us the world, a fusion of flora and fauna and his unique style that he has called Florna. The hybrids he creates are made from finding where nature mimics itself between species and blending them, serving as a visual reminder of the interconnectedness of life forms on Earth. John's Hawaiian island upbringing on Oahu in Hawaii has instilled him with the appreciation and respect for the natural world. John uses oil paint as his primary medium, forming surreal imagining of what limitless wonders and combinations nature can produce, exemplifying the endless potential of life on Earth through metaphor and allegory. Inspiring love, hope, and admiration for the unique beauty of our world is John's ultimate goal, and he works to bring awareness to the mass extinction and climate change in his work, partnering with organizations and aiding in fundraising and education. So welcome, John. Awesome to have you here. And we'll do the same kind of format that we did with Luis. So John's going to screen share and kind of answer the questions that we've put to him pre-call. So Meg's just dropped the website for John Ching into the chat as well. And yeah, take it away, John. So if you want to screen share, show us some of your paintings. The first question, just to remind you, was what's the first painting that was really important to you when you realized that what you were doing was really awesome work?
Cool. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks for giving me your time and allowing me to share my work. And I'm also, I wish Luis was still here, but I'm like so intimidated to go after him. So it's actually kind of a really amazing stuff. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. And I sort of just put together some works that sort of like traverse my journey so far. So I don't know, maybe if a question kind of brings to mind a painting, I'll toggle back to that. But the first question of what was the first piece that was important to me, I sort of interpreted that as the first piece that I thought I guess could express an idea, or wasn't just for my own entertainment or practice, but was sort of important in the sense of expressing an idea. So this is one of them. I think it was in like 2011 or something. At the time I was living in San Francisco, which was undergoing, and it still is, but a lot of gentrification and a lot of change from sort of like a more free-spirited artistic community and sort of slowly being replaced by a more tech-centric work community that didn't quite have the same ideals. So this piece is called Modern Convenience, and it's funny looking back at it now. It was sort of my commentary on just seeing apps becoming these tools to make every convenience available to us, even if we didn't need the convenience. So there's sort of these puppies, and I sort of saw that as like the techies that were these young kids coming into the city and having everything delivered. Their house is being built for them by fishes, even though that's not their house, it's the bird's house. It's a nest. And so the bird is sort of feeding it, and so it's like sort of these vines that are feeding it, but also slowly kind of strangling it, because I didn't have the best feelings about what was going on. So it was this piece, and also, let's see, this piece, which was called Fresh Coat. And the idea behind this one was sort of gentrification was starting to look like a very standard thing. All of these cafes that looked the same were sort of just popping up all over the place, and the same aesthetic was sort of infiltrating the city. And so I sort of was seeing it as vines taking over, and how it's really pretty when you look at a building covered in vines or a tree covered in vines, but the vines are actually sort of suffocating the host. And so it was this idea of like covering up something that's already beautiful with something that's more sort of beauty in sort of a monoculture sort of sense. So yeah, these were the two pieces that sort of started me on the path that I'm currently on, with using animals and plants as a way to convey ideas that I have about society and our relationship with nature, which obviously dips into climate change and mass extinction and all of the woes that we're trying to fight together.
Beautiful. And I can see there's quite a few different species of greenery in there.
Yeah, I think there's like maybe 6 or 7 different vines, and I was trying to find all vines that were either poisonous or detrimental to their host in some way. So sort of just for my own, I don't know, satisfaction, I suppose.
And what's that piece called? I don't think you mentioned.
This one's called Fresh Coat.
Oh, yes, Fresh
So
Coat.
kind of the idea of just like putting on another paint of coat and calling it new.
Yeah. I love the depth and shading that's going on there. It's very beautiful.
Thanks.
And this is all oil paint?
Yeah, all oil paint. And I think this one was probably 2012, maybe a decade ago, I suppose. Time flies.
Yeah. And I'm sure you've done many paintings since then, haven't you? Lots of
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, so I can just flip through some. I guess that's sort of, yeah. I mean, the way that I sort of built this was like how I sort of found my voice in making commentary. So this one's kind of about our consumption and overconsumption, sort of to the point of literally eating coral. You know, we're just an insatiable species that without effort to control our hunger, we will never stop. So I think it's like I sort of started with darker themes, trying to comment on things, and before this I had trouble finding my voice because I was looking at all of these problems and I wanted to just paint the problem, but I realized that people don't want to look at the problem straight on, and so in future ones, so this is probably like, this is one that I swore would like never sell, but it eventually did. But I have I sort of started shifting things into instead of shaming people or forcing them to look at the destruction or the bad habits that we have, my goal now is to get people to remember that nature is beautiful and re-spark the love of nature and of the natural world, because I think by awakening that in everyone, that will encourage people to want to save and protect it, as opposed to wagging my finger at them and telling everyone that you're doing it wrong. So that sort of led me to finding connections in nature. So like your intro said, I like to find colors and shapes and patterns that sort of mimic each other across nature, because ultimately everything on this planet is connected. We're all carbon-based life forms. We all came from a single cell, you know, and so there's of course this deep physical connection that we all share with every other living organism. And so I think being able to represent that visually is my way of sort of getting people to see that that connection, or that, you know, it's that there's similarities across every aspect of nature if we look close enough, and we can see ourselves in that too.
That's certainly what's really unique about your work, is that blending. It like makes your brain explode. That's what I feel. It makes my brain explode with like wonder, and then also the possibilities of how all that interconnection is playing together. It's like your work brings those connections together in my brain. Like, whoa, it's really quite beautiful. How do you start your artwork, and how long does it take? Because I mean, I know oil painting takes a long time to build up these layers. So could you give us an idea of your art practice and how you work?
Yeah, there's several ways that like ideas sort of formulate. Sometimes there is an issue. Like last year I was working on a show, and you know, the pandemic happened, and in the US and I guess worldwide, Black Lives Matter happened, and we were having a you know, social justice reckoning, and that sort of derailed me. So sometimes it's specific issues like Black Lives Matter that I want to make a piece about, and I'll think about my thoughts of it and kind of boil that down to an idea, and then I'll build a composition based off of that. Other times it's as simple as like watching a nature doc and seeing a bird and it's sparking, you know, some connection with, you know, in this case, like aspen leaves, and how like, wow, all of the different colors of aspen leaves are the same as this conure, and you know, and then sort of further researching that to see if those things can fit. And so yeah, in this case, like being like, okay, like the shape and the colors sort of fit, so I can substitute them. And yeah, so it's, yeah, sometimes it's just a visual spark that starts it, and then I'll build out ideas from there. And other times it's more conceptual, but sort of like Luis, there's a ton of ideas that sort of hit me and I'll write them down, but a lot of times I won't, because if I remember it, then there's actually something to build a painting off of. So sometimes I regret that strategy and wish that I had written it down, but the muse visits me occasionally and drops a new idea in when I need it. So I trust in that now.
And so just to give us an idea of how long these oil paintings take, well, could you tell us how long they take?
Yeah, so generally it takes me a few weeks to come up with the composition and do the research and find reference photos. I work from like a ton of reference photos. It's kind of crazy sometimes. I'm trying to narrow that process, but the actual painting, I feel like it doesn't take me that long. Like I can do like this one behind me, I think it took me maybe like just under 2 weeks to physically paint. And so, I mean, actually, I don't know what long is for like non-painters. For me, that feels like pretty speedy, but 2 weeks working on one thing, if you're not accustomed to that practice, I think could probably feel like a while. So, but yeah, it just kind of depends on how complicated it is and how much I'm sort of making up and how much I'm directly using from my reference photos. Because a lot of times I have to sort of Frankenstein things together and, you know, take the angle of a wing, but apply a different pattern to it, or, you know, make it out of butterfly leaves or wings. So
Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorites, and I think Summer has said the same in the chat. This is this a black cockatoo, or is it a different bird?
Yeah, it is. Good eye. I love cockatoos, and I wish that I lived in your part of the world where they live more freely.
Yes, they're an Australian bird, not in New Zealand, but I did live in Australia for a couple of years and lived near where some black cockatoos flew around regularly. So it was very special to be able to see them in person, because they're pretty rare, even in Australia.
Yeah.
None out this morning, but they are around.
Nice. I'm jealous of you, but I know we have birds here that maybe you don't have. So
definitely, yeah.
We're all blessed.
Oh wow.
So yeah, these are sort of examples of what I like to call flana, a mix of flora and fauna, to sort of have that surreal aspect that I think is just visually interesting, but again, to, you know, be like, these colors exist all over the natural world, and shapes and everything.
And so what are the ways that you feel that nature is speaking to you through your art?
I feel like since I've started looking towards the natural world for inspiration with my art, I've felt compelled to share its stories. The more I research, the more I learn. And a lot of times it's just sharing a species that might be going extinct, and hoping that people see it before it's gone. Other times it's, success stories, like symbiotic relationships that I think we could learn from, and a lot of my recent work is sort of inspired, or I guess driven by indigenous ways of knowing, and how they sort of see the divine in nature. And I am starting to really understand that a lot more, that a lot of the natural world is our ancestors. They were here much longer before us and evolved to survive in perfect balance without us. And so I like the idea that our role in nature is to be stewards, and we have the capacity to understand how nature works together, and we have the ability to encourage that. And I really think that humans' role in the interconnected web is to be like fertilizer, to help manage and to help, for the better of our own species, and also for nature, to see how nature works best on its own, and then to help ensure that. So I think that's what I'm trying to convey on behalf of nature through my art.
Beautiful answer, thank you. I know it's a tricky, it's a good question to ask for all of us. Oh, look at that. Oh, I'm dying. And there's some great comments coming through the Zoom as well, with people's appreciation of your work too, John.
I should open the chat box. Thank you. I haven't been reading it. Yeah, I guess I'll just cycle through these. These are some newer works that were this year or so. Lately, I've been trying to, I think sort of like Luis, how he was saying that he isn't trying to represent the divine or God, but sort of like show the essence of it. I'm trying, in my newer works, I'm trying to represent God, the idea of God, the divine, the spiritual, through my fauna creatures as a physical manifestation of God, because I just think that so many indigenous cultures saw and see God in nature, and if the rest of us can see God in nature as well, we have no choice but to protect it. We have no choice. If we can see that it is God, then we inherently have a love for it and an obligation to preserve and protect it and worship it. So I'm trying to, oh no, I'll go back to that one. So like this one was sort of like the idea of like the morning showers in a forest, and this bird, flies overhead and brings the mist that nourishes, sprinkles everything with water, waters the whole forest, and awakens it and gives life to it. So trying to just represent divinity and sort of bring the supernatural into just the natural. I mean, I think the natural is supernatural, actually. Like when you look at how, I keep talking about nature docs, but they just blow my mind how amazing nature can be, and it feels supernatural, but it's just regular. It's, yeah.
I love that you use the word worship, because we've identified with Bloom Network that that's really something that's sort of missing from the Church of Earth. I think that's growing up in the world, that people really recognize that nature is divine. And like you said, and by the way, I'm going to quote you on it, if we can see that nature is God, then we inherently feel a responsibility to protect and worship it. I think that's really part of what Bloom's culture wants to do, is really worship nature and sing its praises.
That's great. I love that. Yeah, I really think that it needs to become a practice too, not just an idea, but you know, worship implies practice. So that's the goal. I guess I'll cycle through. These are newer ones. And yeah, sometimes I like to just make paintings that make me smile because if you see something smiling, it makes you want to smile too. So I had a happy bird a couple of ones ago. That one, the intent was just to, well, this is like my little pollinator god, but it's a jolly one. So yeah, I don't know. Is that there's two more in here.
I feel like I could stare at your art forever.
Thanks.
I think a lot of people will agree with me. One of the other questions we asked Luis was, what does art know that science can't? So what are we accessing through art that we can't access through science?
I think he got it. I forget exactly what he was saying, but I was like, that's it. I think it's maybe pulling from the same pool of knowledge, but one is a form of communication. I think art is a language, and science is, like he was saying, a way of understanding. And so I think they complement each other. And for me especially, I find the science intriguing and inspiring, and oftentimes I'm trying to convey ideas that science has shown us. I mean, I think that indigenous cultures have figured those things out too, and science just likes to take credit for it. But
well, they found a way to measure it.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I think like art maybe is a bridge. It can be a bridge from what science has measured and discovered, and translating that into an emotion or feeling. But yeah, I don't know if they're super comparable. I feel like they're different aspects of knowledge, maybe.
Yeah, different ways to explore it.
I just want to plug, there's this documentary called Fantastic Fungi. If anyone has seen that, you'll know how amazing it is. And if you haven't, I highly encourage everyone to check it out. It's visually amazing, but also just, I did not know how cool mushrooms were, and how I guess I knew how ancient of beings they were, but I didn't understand like how our whole natural world is because of them. So this painting was inspired by parts of that documentary, and I think everyone should watch it. It's great.
Cool, that's a good plug. It's actually, I've been meaning to watch it for a while and I still haven't, so thank you for the reminder.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a delight visually. So even if you watched it with the volume off, like it'd be amazing.
Cool. You can keep cycling through your art, John, if you want. But I'd love to open up the floor for some questions. We've got a bit of time. And then we do have some general questions as well to explore about art and regenerative culture if people want to stick on for that. But if you can put your question in the chat if you are interested in asking John a question. Then now is your chance while we continue to look at his amazing artwork. This one, I'm intrigued as to why the owl's eyes are covered with the butterfly. Is that because the eyes are very similar to the patterns on the butterfly? Was there another
Yeah.
going on?
This piece was sort of, I like to paint oracles. In some of my shows where the theme of this was exploring what the natural world looks like post-Anthropocene. So if you don't know, if you're not familiar with the term, Anthropocene is what some people call the current ecological time that we're in, where humans have transformed the face of the planet. And so it's sort of like the age of humans. And I just think that I don't know how hopeful I am that we're not going to destroy the planet, but the hope that I have is that the planet will recover. It always does. It's resilient AF, and you can't stop evolution. So from my point of view, when our species is done, hopefully we get our act in order, but if we don't, and when our species is done, there will be a great loss of biodiversity, and the surface of the planet will look different. But I think that only opens the door for a big boom of evolution. Different species will adapt to the new world. Maybe they'll have less predators because we killed all of them off. And so they'll be able to thrive in a way that they weren't allowed to before with the old world order. And so that's sort of the context of the show that I was painting. So this is my little oracle owl, and the butterfly is sort of its vision, is its gives its ability to sort of foresee this future. That was the setting of the show.
This a painting like this is kind of where that question came from of like, what does art know that science can't? Because I'm working on 3 different books in evolution. That's my education is in anthropology. And I believe that the use of light in a cell is equivalent to sight. And that would extend to plants. So I believe that all plants can see, not just flowers, but specifically that orchids have some of the best sight. But I also think that some wings and feathers perhaps have a sort of sight or vision. And so something like this is what brings that question out of me, that the artist is seeing or feeling something, some element of scientific truth that isn't quite out in our consciousness yet, but it's there in the collective psyche. That our bodies know that there's more to the world than what we see.
Very cool. Yeah, that's great. I think it made me think about recently learning about octopus cells, their skin, and how they're starting to, I think, understand that their skin perceives color. It's not, when they do their whole crazy camouflage or, skin color change, it's not necessarily like a cognitive or a brain cognitive function. So that's awesome that you're researching that.
Yeah, and urchins as well. They're finding all kinds of animals in the sea whose entire body is, every cell represents an eye. So it's a collective vision that they are responding with. And so I'm thinking that perhaps the undersides of certain owls, hawks, ones that can, sense anything, really calculate that landing coming in, that sort of a thing. So
Yeah, it's so cool. I really want to save nature, if only because there's so much that we haven't discovered about it, and I just want to learn from it indefinitely. So, I think maybe there was one more that I skipped past. Oh yeah, this one.
Oh yeah, this one. Ah,
This was also sort of in the post-Anthropocene show or series, I guess.
was this the show that you did in Australia that then no one could see?
Yeah, this piece was there. Australia was doing so good, and I was really excited that people would be able to see the show, but Melbourne locked down like 3 days right before, and I mean it was fine. I felt bad for everyone there because the lockdown seemed intense. Yeah, but it was weird to make 10 paintings and know that maybe like 6 people would ever see it if it sold. So, but that's compared to what other people went through last year, it's totally fine.
Just dropping into the chat there, your interview with the Melbourne Gallery where that was set up, because it is really interesting to hear you talk more about this Anthropocene or post-Anthropocene world, which Meg says she prefers to call it plasticine. That's definitely one of the things that worries me, is that there's just so much plastic in the world. It's down to that micro scale, and what's going to happen afterwards. I don't see, like in your paintings, it's all still very natural. There's no kind of conglomeration of plastic shells coming through. Is that something that you had thought about doing, like putting trash in there, or you just want to focus on the beautiful world that could come after us?
Yeah, I almost try to pretend that humans don't exist in my paintings, like even though it's a lot of times a reaction to our behavior. I just don't have an interest in painting human stuff. I have done it before, but yeah, I'd rather just spend time representing the gloriousness of nature than the destructive crap that we make.
Oh, that's beautiful. Are there, no one's dropped any questions in the post, in the chat? Oh, there we go, magenta. Did it take you a long time to get so great at the technique of light and color? Because it really was quite stunning.
Thanks. I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, that seems egotistical, but I think the light comes naturally to me. I sort of have a background in photography, just amateur and quasi, gig type of deals. But I think maybe that helped train my eye to see light. And I also just really like contrast. So a lot of times I just like to have deep shadows and brighter highlights. And I think it just helps create the sort of 3D-ness, which I really like doing. Color, I think, is also something that's sort of intuitive. I don't know. Since I started learning painting, I've been able to mix colors fairly accurately, and I don't know if it's a lot of just trial and error. I mean, at the beginning, it was just scrapping a lot of paint and getting to know my colors, and I use a pretty limited palette, so I know what colors will make what I want. But yeah, a little bit of time.
So how long have you been painting for, John?
I started in 2008, so 13 years. I was always a drawer, you know, like I think every kid gets to explore their artistic abilities, and at a certain point, some give up and some keep going. So I've always been that kid that would, you know, draw their homework assignments rather than write it if I could.
And did that work at school? Because my son would love to do the same. Did you get away with it?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, like, you know, I couldn't turn in a painting for an essay, but sometimes I would like draw something with words. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. I hadn't thought of even doing that. So are there any daily practices that you do to bring key messages through, or anything you'd like to recommend people to hear nature more?
I honestly think that just like taking time to look at things is great. Like as a painter, I spend hours and hours and hours looking at the little tiny details that, you know, of coral or of birds' feathers, and that has given me so much appreciation for their form and how perfect it is. And I think if everyone, you know, took more time to really like investigate things like in the natural world, that would encourage an appreciation. Like, you know, if you're going for a hike or something, sometimes it's easy to just, you know, keep the vista that you're hiking to in mind and trudge past, you know, all of these things. But if you slow down and get your eyeballs up close to like moss and see how complex, you know, moss is, I think that's a perspective change that you can sort of recall in your daily life.
Yeah, that deep observation of nature. Yeah, that's a really beautiful thing to remind people to do, especially because it is around us or everywhere. That beauty is everywhere. We just need to open our eyes and see it.
Yeah, and it's hard,
All
you
the
know,
time.
modern life is very busy and there's a lot of distractions. And so I think it requires more intention than it used to. But I think it's that challenge. It's our attention is being challenged, and I think that's one of the reasons why we're headed in not the best of directions. So yeah.
Wow, thank you so much, John. And we're definitely doing the time. It's been it's 10 past the hour and a half that we set aside, and I know that you have something to go to next. So just really want to say from the bottom of our blooming hearts, thank you so much for giving us the time and space to share your amazing artwork, and that we will use this then to create an article and YouTube videos to share your art with the rest of our community and the communities of the world. So thank you very much, John, for being here and chatting with us.
Thanks for the opportunity, and thanks everyone for your attention. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. So that winds up our solstice call for June 2021. I hope you've all been inspired by the amazing artwork that we have seen today, and that you remember to take that deep observational moments in nature to keep us and keep you connected into this natural world, and continue doing the good things to save the world as best we can. Ka kite, everyone. Until next time. Oh, our next bloom call will be on the equinox, around the equinox time in September. Awesome.
Adiós, amigos.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Super inspired.
Thank you.
I know.
Beautiful.
All the
Thanks,
artists.
Delphi, for being here.
Yeah.